Hey, welcome back everybody to another episode of Repair University. Today we're breaking down this Maytag MVW Series Washer and we're gonna get to it. The tool of choice is gonna be a 1/4 inch nut driver. Let's get started. First off, we're gonna work on with the backside here. We're gonna start off with this 1/4 inch screw that holds this cover in place to the wiring harness in your fill tube. Let's keep moving forward. We're gonna remove also this panel here. We gotta go along and remove various screws that hold this back control board panel in place. Just work nice and slowly. Don't forget you do have one here, kind of at center, off to the right a little bit. All right, cool. Grab this guy, stick it to the side. And now we want to lift off the whole top off this washer to gain access to your UI board. So we got to remove this screw here. And you have another screw to the right. Once again, these are 1/4 inch size. Okay, grab your screws, put them off to the side. Now we're gonna come around and I want you guys to grab a set of pliers just like this because there are two ways to remove this UI control panel. One of them is taking a putty knife, sticking it in between the panel and also the bottom here, but a lot of times you don't have sufficient room because of this hinge right here. You're gonna need a standard screwdriver, a small standard screwdriver, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna get up on the side right here and wedge in between the cabinet and your top portion here, and then you'll pull forward because there is some kind of lock mechanism there, and if you don't wedge up and pull forward, it will not release it. So let's go ahead and go over to the other side and do this. Now, not always on all washers, but on this one right here, it definitely has that little lockout. So we'll kind of wedge in here, lift, and you can see, there it is, boom. Now it was released. So you want to come as far forward as you can, pry up and pull. Okay, so here's a clip to the right and to the left. Grab your pliers, squeeze those clips, and that releases your UI board. Okay, bring it back down slowly. We'll come around, and now we can lift our UI board up out of the way and flip it over. And you do have a connection right here to your control board for your UI board. Okay, that has now released the UI board. And I want to talk about this UI board right here. There are certain failures that can occur on this UI board. You could have malfunctioning buttons or a flaky readout screen, or sometimes you can no longer stick it to a setting and it'll kind of bug out. If that does happen, unfortunately, the UI board will need to be replaced. Okay, let's move forward. Let's stick this out of the way. All right, here we go. Let's talk about our water inlet valve. The water inlet valve is basically introduces water into the machine, hot or cold or warm. It'll transition over. Now, a lot of times you'll lose cold water function into the machine or hot water function into the machine. When that happens, there are a few things you need to do first. The first thing is to verify that there is water coming into the machine, verify that, remove the hoses, shut the water off at the wall, grab one of those hoses, either hot or cold, turn it on into the drain, and make sure you have water flow for both hot or cold. Once you verify there is water flow coming in through your home into the washing machine, next thing you need to do is take a look at these screens. Back here you have a right side filter and a left side filter. A lot of times if you have a lot of contaminants and dirt and soil in your water lines, it will cake this side or the other side, reducing or stopping water flow completely. You can remove these filters, carefully pry them out with a standard screwdriver, a set of pliers, and run them through your faucet, clean them up, and then simply reinstall them. We could talk about that a little bit later, how to remove this filter, but let's keep moving forward. If your left and right side are clear, then the next thing to suspect is either a crack at your solenoids. If you see a crack here, here, or here, it's no longer good. The water inlet valve needs to be replaced. To do so, pretty easy. You have a connection here. This could be a little bit tricky. Let me grab a putty knife right here, or this little tool right here. And you gotta push firmly. There we go, just like that. Grab it, push firmly, just like that. Because if you pull the wiring, you could damage the wiring to the connection. So you just kind of want to grab a putty knife or something like this, or a standard screwdriver, and just walk it out of there. Okay, here we go. So on your left side, we have a 1/4 inch screw. These are nice and long. And you have one here to your right. And then you also have a temperature sensor here at the bottom. Just pull this right out carefully. You got a temp sensor with a release tab. Just move that release tab to the right and pull that connection straight out. So here is your water inlet valve. This one is starting to crack right here in the center. I'm not sure if you can see that. We have a crack there at the center. That's telling me that the center solenoid probably has an issue, and this right here has to be replaced already. And you also have plungers inside, plunger, 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 and they have a little rubber stop on them. A lot of times that rubber stop hardens or gets caked full of dirt, no longer allowing proper movement. Also, other times you could have it installed, and what will happen is the machine will be off and you'll have a drip coming into the washer, a slow drip, because those plungers are no longer sealing effectively. When that happens, you need to replace your water inlet valve for one of a few things: a drip into the washer, also low to no water flow into the washer. When those things happen, simply replace it with an OEM or equivalent product. Next up, let's go ahead and talk about the control board. The control board does many functions, many functions. It sends signals to the UI board for your readout. Also, the UI board sends signals back to the control board, which setting you're in, what you want to do, temperatures and all that. Now, these control boards can go bad, and they do go bad quite frequently, unfortunately. One is going to be your transducer. So you got this fill level tube, and as the washer's filling up with water, it sends pressure over to your transducer, AKA fill pressure water level sensor. When that happens, a lot of times they go bad and the washer will enter flood mode and it will no longer do anything. It'll just be stuck draining water, draining water, draining water. And when that happens, it could be because of one of two things. It could be because your water inlet valve no longer introduced water into the washer, right? So then it times out and goes into flood mode. But a lot of times when you first turn on the machine, it automatically enters flood mode and the drain pump kicks on. That's telling you that this transducer is no longer good. And unfortunately, on this particular control board, it is not replaceable, and you do have to buy a OEM or equivalent control board. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. It just needs to be replaced. Also, you do have various relays, capacitors, you name it. Things go bad. You got your inverter for the motor. Things go bad, they fail. Just replace it when they do. Okay, to remove it, we have various connections that run to it. These are all pinch connections. So you just pinch, lift, go around, removing all these connections. Take your time, be careful, don't damage any wiring, just like that. Okay. And then we'll get this wiring out of the way, and we do have a 1/4 inch screw to the left. Remove it. Slide this to your left, and that releases the control board. Small, tiny little guy that creates so much havoc. And unfortunately, it's a bit pricey, but to bring back the machine to working 100% order, every now and then, it just needs to be replaced. Okay, now I want to talk about another key failure component that does fail on this machine and just about every washer with a modern lid lock. So you go ahead and go to use it, you hit start, nothing happens, it beeps. Or a lot of times you'll hear a click click, click, and you're like, what gives, you know? I mean, this thing is not washing, it's not going. Very, very frustrating. If you hear a click in this area to the front of the washer, suspect a bad lid lock. So you have a striker that enters the lid lock when you close the lid. First off, inspect the striker to make sure it's not damaged or missing any pieces. Okay, if this striker looks okay, suspect definitely a bad lid lock, especially if it's clicking or you cannot start the machine. Okay, what we're gonna do is we're gonna bring this whole lid up right here, and we have a bezel. The bezel is just purely cosmetic to make it look pretty. It's got two clips to the left and right. You simply just stick your pinky in there, pry to the left, pry to the right. That releases the bezel, okay? Now, in this instance, since I have it kind of taken apart, we're gonna go ahead and try to remove it. We're gonna need a small standard screwdriver, and it has a release tab right here. Push down on the release tab and bring it to your left, and that simply releases the lid lock, okay? And we'll go around carefully here. It's got these holders in place for the wiring harness. We'll go ahead and, it could be a little tricky. Go ahead and get that out of the way. You might even have to get a small standard screwdriver and pry these holders up out of the way. See, just like that. Okay, the final thing we have is we have this guy holding the wiring harness in place. Bring the lid down carefully. And a lot of times you can do this with your fingers. You pinch this guy right here, and that releases the lid lock. Pretty easy to remove and reinstall. So like I said, as I mentioned, when you hear a click, click, click in this portion and area, or you go to start the washer and nothing is happening, you don't see that little light on the UI board light up for your lid lock, suspect a bad lid lock, replace it, and it will restore function to your washer. Okay, now we want to talk about a different scenario with this washer, and it's not a very common issue or scenario. Let's say you were moving the washer or you were cleaning it, and for some reason you needed to remove the detergent tray and softener tray. To do so, you have a release push down tab here to the left and to the right. You push down on this and pull it straight out. So you want to do a deep cleaning, you need to remove it, you got the tab right, left, push down, it comes right out. And to reinstall it, you just push it in. Now, in this case, I'm gonna say this one does need a deep cleaning. These fill level lines simply lift right out of there. Set it on the ground, clean it up, pressure wash it, get it up underneath a stream of water, clean it up, put it back together, and slide it back into position, just like that. All right, cool. Okay, next up, we're gonna get to the nitty gritty, the part of the teardown that nobody likes to do. Technicians don't like doing it. I don't like doing it. Homeowners, you're not gonna like this part, but if this repair needs to be done, you need to know how to remove this next part. So let's remove the whole lid, get it up out of the way, which I strongly recommend because we're gonna be wrestling with this machine. Okay, here we go. So the very dreaded agitator, the tall agitator. It is a nightmare on this machine, and it's gotta be done. So first off, we have the cap right here, and down below, we have a 11mm bolt. Now, if you have an impact driver, I do recommend a 3/4 1/2" impact driver to remove that bolt. If you don't have one, I strongly recommend a bunch of extensions. We got a ratchet here, okay, 11mm as mentioned. And what you gotta do is, and I had already loosened this, but it is, I'm telling you, it's a bear and you're not gonna like the job. So I do recommend impact if you have it. Get down in there, have plenty of extensions to come up. And a lot of times you might wanna have someone help you hold the basket, or you might have to get up into the machine, get one foot down in there to stop it, and you gotta crank away and loosen that bolt. So let's go ahead and remove that. Okay. We'll leave the bolt down in there for right now, no big deal. Now, it is very, very rare that you're able to grab the agitator and lift it up out of there. Extremely rare, and if it happens right now, it happens. But so you'll sit there pulling on it, nothing's gonna happen. What's next? What do you do next? Now, there are a few things you could do. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't work. We're gonna try it out right now, okay? And we're gonna break it down. If this works, great. If it doesn't work, you know? So a lot of guys will stick airbags on the right side up underneath the wash plate here, and airbag to the left, and air it up and try to force it to pop off. A lot of times that does not work. So we're gonna grab a strap and we're gonna stick it up underneath the wash plate and tug on it to see if we can remove it. Okay, so I'm gonna grab a tool like this, pry a little bit to try to get my, and that is tight. That is tight. This is gonna be a workout, let me tell you. So we're gonna get the strap down in there. Okay, that might not work. So if you can't get the strap up underneath the wash plate, which in this case I'm having a super, super hard time, grab yourself a strap, right? Wrap around the base of the agitator 2 to 3 times. There we go. Now, wrap it a few times, maybe even 3 or 4 times. Okay. Now this portion right here, and now you might be able to tug it off. Just kind of tug it. It may or may not work. We might have to go to a different method here in a minute. That's not gonna work. All right, cool. So hearing protection, we're gonna make some noise. Yep. Okay, here we go. If all else fails, this is the tactic to remove this wash plate. For those of you that have attempted it and failed at it, it is extremely tough. You guys know what I'm talking about. So with a strap hooked to the bottom of the cabinet, we come around, wrap around the agitator 3 or 4 times, come around the other end, we hook into the bottom of the cabinet of the machine, and you're gonna wanna basically give it tension and bring up the whole tub and basket to this side and this side. Next up, definitely some hearing protection because it's about to get loud. Okay, with your extension, 11 millimeter, you're gonna drive the bolt back down again. But you're gonna back it off maybe 1, 2, or 3 turns, nothing too aggressive. You wanna back it off. So we're down in there tight, turn 1, and then 2 turns, just like that. Grab yourself a sledgehammer and just start whacking down, pretty aggressively too. Okay, now check for tension at the bolt. If you feel tension on the bolt, that means the wash plate's starting to walk up. That's a good thing, okay? In this case, nothing yet. It's starting to walk up a little bit. I did have some tension. Now, if you feel that tension, back the bolt up a little bit, 1 or 2 turns. There it goes. It's starting to come up little by little. Now, another turn. It might get a little tight on you. There we go. Okay, did you hear that thud? It came up quite a bit. So now it actually got pretty tight. Keep working at it, be very, very patient. Obviously be careful, don't hurt yourself. This is not a fun job, but it's necessary for this particular wash plate. Okay, that got super tight. Let me grab my ratchet here. We're gonna back it up some more. This is an impact resistant extension here, which is good. Back it up a little bit more. Keep working at it, it's starting to come up. A few turns. It's work, it's coming up, it's coming up. It's gonna take a while. We're gonna get it though. Oh yeah. There it is, folks, there it is. There it is, persistence pays off. So really, really important right here. You're gonna wanna keep this socket as straight up and down as you can and hit it with force, but not too crazy, don't hurt yourself. A lot of times, unfortunately, you can damage the agitator and you'll have to replace it anyways. Okay, so we fought relentlessly with this tall agitator, which, let me tell you, let's be honest, everybody hates this particular job on this washer. We removed it, we did not damage the bolt. It was a bear. But now, moving forward, let's talk about the actual agitator and what fails on it. So one of the only things that really fails on this agitator is gonna be your metal insert has splines, and a lot of times those splines start wearing out. And in this case, these splines are very healthy, let me tell you, because we had a hell of a time removing it, but we did. If these splines are severely worn out, this agitator just lifts right up out of there, no problem. But that's not a good thing. It needs to be super tight and nice. So if the splines are worn out here, rest assured that the splines are worn out at the gear case shaft. Now, when that happens, if these splines are still okay at the gear case shaft, that's no problem whatsoever. If they're worn out here, buy a new OEM agitator and simply replace it because it doesn't need to be nice and tight. Okay, let's move forward. We're gonna remove also the basket right here. But to do so, we need to remove this splash guard first. So small, little, standard screwdriver. It's got plenty of tabs all the way around the tub. We're gonna go through sticking that screwdriver in there and prying go around, pry and lift, okay? Now we're wondering why we're removing and tearing down the whole machine. Well, let's say you need to do deep cleaning, or you simply have to replace the gear case. All this is very, very necessary for either, as I mentioned, that deep cleaning or removing the gear case and replacing it with a new one. Okay, here we go. You're gonna need a spanner wrench and a 4-pound sledge or equivalent. Place it up over this spanner nut. It's got slots, they fall right in, okay? And you will be hitting it counterclockwise. I like to grab the hammer like this. You're gonna wanna put some force into it. Definitely put some force into it. Everything, almost everything about this machine, and I'm gonna be completely honest with you, is gonna be a fight. Removing the agitator, removing the spanner nut, everything to do with the bottom end is gonna be a fight. It won't come easy, but you gotta be persistent and keep at it. So on this particular model with that spanner nut, once the nut's removed, you cannot grab the basket and simply lift it up out of there. It's not gonna happen. So what you're gonna have to do is lay the whole washer on its backside, just lay it down. Okay, and now we're gonna start working at the bottom. We're gonna go ahead and grab an impact driver. This particular washer has a bad gear case. We need to replace the gear case. To do so, that basket has to come out. But in order for that to happen, this gear case has to come out first. It is what it is. So we have this connection that runs up to the motor. It's a pinch connection. Go ahead and pinch, remove that. And now we have a wiring harness holder that attaches to the gear case. Grab yourself an interior trim piece removal tool like this. Get down in there and pry that out of the way. We do have another one here located at the capacitor. Okay, there we go. Just pry it carefully out of the way. We have a connection here at the bottom of the capacitor. Go ahead, pinch and release. Let's go ahead and remove these individual components because that gear case is about to come out anyways. Okay, capacitor does have a 1/4-inch screw holding it to the gear case. Go ahead and remove that. By the way, this is your motor capacitor. And when this motor capacitor goes bad, you're gonna have a few things going on. You may see a visible oil leak coming out of the capacitor, or your motor may be humming and no longer spinning at a good speed, or a weak motor. Suspect a bad capacitor, replace it with an OEM equivalent. Make sure it's reading a 50, just like the OEM. Okay, and now the motor with a 1/2-inch socket. I'm gonna use an impact driver here, 1/4 inch. We got one bolt to the right, one bolt to the left. And we gotta remove all this stuff because this gear case is coming out of here for replacement. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about the motor as well while we're here. Now, a bad motor will have a few symptoms. On these, you could have the whole shaft drop out and you'll have a bunch of play up and down or side to side. When that happens, you know the bearings are bad, they need to be replaced. Also, a super weak motor will get super hot. If the motor is getting extremely hot to the touch, signs are the motor's on its way out and it's time to replace it with an OEM equivalent motor. Okay, next up is gonna be your shift actuator. You got a screw to the left. This is gonna be a Phillips screw, which is AKA standard. Pretty long screw, and one to the right. Remove that. And we also have a connection here, a pinch connection. Go ahead and remove it. And let's go ahead and talk about the shift actuator and things that go bad and wrong with the shift actuator. First off, you have this little swing arm. A lot of times the swing arm could simply break and it moves to the left and right with ease. If it moves to the left and right with ease, this shift actuator arm is bad and it needs replacement. Also, you have a motor here that brings us to the left and brings us to the right. The motor can also fail. When that happens, it needs to be replaced. You also have a reading, you have a speed reader here through this slot, and you have a ring, a round ring located inside the gear case with various slots and windows. And that picks up on speed, your RPM. When this no longer reads that speed, it will also have various issues. The machine will no longer work correctly. It's time to replace it when those issues do happen. Also keep in mind, those little windows, those little windows in here, they could be full or caked of debris, spider webs and stuff like that. So it's always a good idea to visibly inspect every single slot in there with a flashlight and spin this slowly and inspect all those little slots to make sure that there are no debris in there from, let's say, mice, spiders, I mean, you name it, I've seen it all in there. And that could also be a culprit to why your shift actuator is no longer working correctly and picking up on that speed. Okay, moving forward. I also want to remove the splutch. We do have a 1/2" nut here. Go ahead and remove that. Pull this pulley right off. And you're gonna grab this assembly firmly and come on over counterclockwise, and that releases your whole splutch assembly. Okay, now talking about the splutch assembly, there are a few things that can fail on this too as well. First off, you have splines up in here that ride along the gear case shaft, and if you have excessive movement left or right, it's time to replace the splutch. A lot of times too, these grooves get worn out and the splutch can get caught up on those grooves. This machine is already exhibiting those issues, but in this case, the gear case will be replaced. So obviously it's gonna be brand new, non-issue. In this case, I also recommend replacing the splutch when installing a new gear case to make sure it's gonna be 100% functionality, all new again, ready to go. Replace the splutch with OEM unit. Okay, now let's go ahead and get the drain pump out of the way. I just don't want anything in the way. We also want to talk about the drain pump and how to remove it. Now we do have this guy right here. You grab it and pull on it firmly. It opens up and we have a connection running from the wiring harness to the drain pump. It's a pinch connection. Go ahead, pinch and wiggle it right out of there. Just like that. And we have a wiring harness clip holder right here. Walk that wiring harness right off of there, okay? And now we have your exit drain hose coming off the drain pump with some pliers. Squeeze this clamp and walk that clamp right off. Just like that, okay? I'd like to grab the pliers and carefully walk the hose right off as well, because it could be a bear sometimes. Okay, here we go. Now with a 5/16 nut driver, I do have a flip socket right here. We're gonna remove these 3 screws that hold that drain pump in place. 1, 2, and we have 1 at bottom, 3. Now there are a few things that go wrong with these drain pumps. You could have a obstruction stuck in the impeller, stopping the impeller, and it will no longer drain. It could be a sock, I mean, you name it, all kinds of things, a coin, all sorts of things. Also, if there are no obstructions and it's no longer draining, there's one of 2 things to suspect: that your motor has gone bad, it's time to replace the drain pump with an OEM unit, or this wiring harness, especially on your Whirlpool products, is known to fray inside, no longer sending power to the drain pump. So if your drain pump checked out okay, you're also gonna wanna visibly peel back this tape and inspect your wires to make sure there's no breakage, especially at the blue wire, is what I found. The blue wire will fray and you'll get no more power. So either wiring harness or your drain pump has an obstruction in it or has simply gone bad, time to replace it. The gear case is held on to the tub by 4 10mm long screws. I like to use an impact driver for this. We're gonna drive them out of there. 10mm, as mentioned. Okay, got one down here. All right, here we go. Now, those 4 screws have been removed. We're gonna stand the machine back up again. We need to drop that gear case down in order to remove the basket. Let's do it. Okay, here we go. Trusty old 4-pound sledge. Let's not worry about damaging that shaft because this gear case is bad anyways. Now, if you need to do a different repair, you'd want to put a block of wood over your shaft so you don't damage anything. In this case, it doesn't matter. We're gonna grab this sledge and whack it straight down to drive that gear case right down. So we're gonna remove this basket as well. Okay, it's gonna take you quite a few whacks, especially if the washer has been sitting for a while. It's not gonna come easy, but it will drop down eventually. There it is. It put up a really, really big fight, but that gear case dropped straight down. Unfortunately, that's the only way to remove the gear case on this washer. Now we can lift the basket straight up, out of the way. Also, if you're gonna be doing a deep cleaning, you need to drop the gear case down because that basket will not come out for a proper cleaning. What happens is you get a bunch of stubborn cake buildup, softener, dirt, detergent, and the only proper way to do a deep clean with a pressure washer is driving that gear case down so you can lift the basket up out of the way. Or also, this basket every now and then might need to be replaced. It could be damaged. There was also an issue where these stampings were too small from the factory, and sometimes it's a factory defect, and sometimes this basket has to be replaced. So the only way to do it is dropping that gear case down. It's not for the faint of heart, but it can be done, people. It can be done. And looking on the inside, obviously needs a good cleaning. I've seen a lot worse, but they do get pretty bad and caked. Now, let's keep moving forward. We got parts everywhere. Let's get that gear case out of the way. Get it on its backside. And let's talk about the gear case too before we remove the tub. So here's your infamous gear case. Bearings go bad, seals go bad, shaft splines go bad. Here is your tub seal. When this seal goes bad, it introduces water, first off, to your upper bearing, eating away at it. You get a roaring sound, kind of like a jet engine taking off. You know it's bad, it's time to replace it. Also, like I mentioned, these splines here at the shaft will wear down heavily. When that happens, the agitator has nothing to grab onto. Hey, you gotta simply replace the gear case. Also, I've seen oil and water leaking up out of this this bottom seal. When that happens, simply replace it, or these splines are completely worn out because they're made out of plastic. It needs to be replaced. Also, this other little shaft is what drives your agitator. And these, if they have a lot of movement side to side, it's time to replace the whole gear case. It is not a serviceable part. Replace with an OEM unit. Okay, so up next are gonna be our suspension rods. Suspension rods do fail. How do you know they've failed? Well, for one, your washer will go off balance, out of balance, display a code possibly, start banging around side to side, sounding like it's been possessed. The way to find out is you basically push down at center, and if it bounces around, you know it's bad. In this case, these are okay, but I want to show you guys how to remove them, okay? We're gonna go ahead and grab the rod, nice and firm, with your gloves on, pull up. This little caster right here, we're gonna go ahead and slide it through that slot, drop the rod straight down. Now you have this holder right here in this slot for release of the rod. You have a clip to the right, push that over, and a clip to the left, push it over. Now that releases the suspension rod. When these go bad, You will know also because this portion here, this dampening portion, will move side to side super easy with no resistance at all. This one has plenty of resistance, so it's still in good shape. Let me go through and remove all of them because we are doing a complete teardown of this machine. And we're gonna get to removing also the wiring harness next. Okay, cool. They've all been removed. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and bring the washer, the cabinet now forward because I wanna remove this rear panel right here. Okay, just like that. Okay, where is my trusty flip drive? Boom. Go over to 1/4 inch right here. And we're gonna go ahead and remove a bunch of screws off this back panel. Okay, we have 7 screws total. And we are also gonna remove the drain hose, obviously. This one, we just squeeze the clamp right here and remove that drain hose. Now, we also have another screw that holds down this drain hose exit. It's like a little mount right here. And there is a clip right here. Push it forward and drop that down out of there, just like that. Okay, cool. Get the screws out of the way. Lift up on the panel and pull it right off. Let's stick it to the side. Okay, now, looking at it from up here, we do have our wiring harness that runs along the tub, and we have the fill tube. We have a wiring harness holder right here at the back side of the washer. With your standard small screwdriver, you gotta get in there and pry this holder up out of the way. That releases the wiring harness and the fill tube. Okay, and we also have another screw. This is a 5/16 straight to the tub that holds down the wiring harness. And we have various clips here at the tub that will literally just lift up out of there. Grab them firmly and lift them right out. Now, please note the fill tube runs to the side of the tub. Carefully pull that off because I've seen in the past where those nipples are broken, and if that happens, you have to replace the whole tub. So be really careful with that nipple exiting the tub. Now, here is your wiring harness. There are quite a few things that can go wrong with this wiring harness. One is gonna be rodent damage, and it happens where they will start biting into the fill tube, damaging the fill tube, and the washer will believe it's not filling up because it has no pressure running through the transducer. If that happens, visibly inspect the fill tube for any rodent bites, also any wiring harness damage as well, because rodents have been known to bite your wiring harness, causing damage. And just in general, there could be breakages inside of the wiring harness, resulting in many various issues. When that happens, replace the wiring harness with an OEM unit. Okay, everything is off the washer. The last thing to remove from this cabinet is gonna be our tub. To simply do that, walk it off the back, lift it up out of there carefully, and here is your tub. Now, tubs can go bad for various reasons. If it was bouncing around, banging around, you could get cracks in the tub on the side. When that happens, you need to simply replace it. Also, it can have damage on your bottom here. It could develop cracks, holes, you name it. I've seen it all. And why does that happen? Well, every now and then, you might have a screw or a coin floating around there, and imagine the basket spinning at several RPMs, and the basket throws a screw, a bolt, a nut, you name it, up against the tub, and it puts a hole in it. I've seen that happen various times. When you have a hole or a crack in your tub, it's time to replace it with an OEM unit. And that's it, folks. Hey, thank you everybody for tuning in to another episode of Repair University with Gabe. Thank you for joining me on this journey with this machine, because it was no easy task, and it really isn't, but it can be done. Patience, persistence. I'll see you guys next time.